Welcome everyone to tonight's District 5030 Festival training session on global grants, passion, action, and traction for sustainable change. Tonight's session will be presented by Kathleen Davis of the Ballard Rotary Club, and my name is Henry Wong from the Seattle International District Rotary Club, and I'll be doing the tech support for tonight's session. I've just muted everyone, so if you could stay on mute, and then if you have any questions, then put them into the chat window and we'll get to those probably near end if there's time. But with that, I will turn it over to Kathleen to take us away.
Okay, well, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming inside for a beautiful day to listen to me. So we're going to talk about international grants and focusing on global grants, as you know. So I want you to think of some place that you have either traveled or someone that you know is really passionate about making change in the world, somewhere other than America. So another country, and what would that change be? And somebody who's just really passionate about it. Or you've gone and visited and you have something in mind yourself. And I know a lot of you are really actually already writing global grants. And so you can think about that. So we're going to talk about that passion to change and how with Rotary you can take action and make sustainable change so that it really has traction and really changes people's lives for the better. Okay, let me just see what I need to do here. Oh, it's down here. Nope, it's not there. There it is. Okay. So as you all know, there are focus groups. So if to do this through Rotary grants, your passion has to fall into one of these groups. So there is a seventh, you'll notice here, the environment. And a half an hour after my session is over, there is a session on details of this environmental one, what the measurements are, what the things that they cover, the things they don't cover. So you may want to stay on and then understand that all of these talks are recorded. So you could, if you want to eat dinner, you could listen to it another time. But if you're going to write an environmental focused grant, you're going to want to go there. Also, Larry Logue, head of International Service Committees, is going to be having a session later on. I have a note about that later. And he will be focusing on more resources than I'm going to give you, and also the local economies focus, because that one is kind of a difficult one to do and not that many people are doing it. So those two will be featured more in the next, in other sessions. So talking about the passion, the change that you want to make in the world through Rotary, you want to think first about where you think the greatest need for that particular thing is. And then you might also want to think about travel. So if after maybe COVID is more under control and we can travel, is it a place you want to travel to? Is it a place that you think other Rotarians would like to go with you so you can really see the project and be part of it? Or maybe you've been there and you love that part of the world. Also, you ought to think about whether you're going to be really bothered by language barriers and need translators, or whether you're going to go to an English country where English is the second language, of which, of course, with the Commonwealth, there are a number of them. So just various big line items to think about. The most important thing, and I would say this is my most important slide of the whole talk, is who are your champions? So you're the champion for the International Club, but you must have a champion or a group of champions who are really passionate about having this change made for their community in the beneficiary community. And we'll talk a little bit about a community assessment for that. But really, if they don't desperately want it, it doesn't matter how badly you want it to be there. So it really has to come from the beneficiaries, and that will also make it sustainable. And Rotary International has gotten more and more focused on that. So you will see that most of the grant is focused on how did the beneficiaries contribute? How did they think it up? How did they come to you for this problem? Most of these beneficiary communities have lacks in almost all the focused areas. So how was it that they prioritized this particular thing, whether it was water, or whether it was a clinic, or whether it was a school? So the beneficiary community is number one. And then number two, a host club, which is a Rotary club that is near the actual project, so that the host club can come and supervise, they can help with the teaching, they can advise. Then you need a champion there. So you need to know, is there a person there that you can really connect with, that you're both passionate about the cause, and especially can you communicate? Does the person answer emails, phone calls, WhatsApp, whatever it is? There has to be a common communication method in which they're responsive, or else it's just really, really hard to do this. So you have your beneficiary community, you have your host club and your international club, which is you, together, working together to contract with a non-governmental organization, or other words are nonprofit. This group usually, and really should, have members of the beneficiary community, maybe on the staff, possibly even on the board. And when they send teachers out, or they send people out to implement, they're going to be of the same, hopefully, ethnic group as your beneficiary community, so that they can communicate at the same level. They'll have a shared language, they'll have a shared culture, and that really is the most effective way to do things. So this is a four-way marriage. And if you don't have it that way, you're really not going to get anywhere. So this is the way for success. All four of these components coming together, the international lead, pairing up and partnering equally with the host club, and the host club and the NGO, and whenever you could be there, the beneficiary community leading the way in what they want, and feeling like they have some kind of an equal voice. So starting again with the beneficiary community, we just covered what do they want, how do they prioritize that need, and then most importantly, what are they going to contribute? Maybe they're going to contribute land for that school, clinic, well. Maybe they're going to contribute the hard labor of digging the ditch or whatever. And maybe they're going to contribute a small amount of money. But it's really important that they have some skin in the game, so to speak, that they really are involved enough to be contributing something. And then this all comes up into a formal community assessment. I'll show you where to get that, but there is a Rotary excuse me, manual on the community assessment, the various components of it, how you're going to do it. And then you're going to have the results part, which is what you send in when you send in a global grant. You're going to have that with it, and it's not going to be accepted without it. That has to be done in advance. Usually the NGO has done that because when they're trying to get money, they have a community assessment to say, here's what the needs are, please donors give to us. So frequently the NGO, the nonprofit organization you're going to work with, will have that done. But if it isn't done for this particular project because it's a new one, then you can work with them to do that. Okay, and then how do you choose then that nonprofit organization? So here are just some different ways if you haven't worked with this nonprofit organization before. You can talk to previous Rotary partners that have worked with them, and then they can tell you, do they communicate well? Do they do what they say they're going to do? Do they handle the funds well? We belong to an organization called Global Washington, which is an umbrella group. It's the biggest umbrella group in Seattle for people working in development work across the world. It has corporations, it has the universities, and it has all the nonprofits, all the organizations who are involved in development. And so we are members of that. District 5030 this year and last year have joined it. We hope to keep on joining it. And they have seminars. They have a list of all their organizations, where they work, what they do. So you might find somebody there. And you certainly owe it to yourself to go to their website and get yourself on the mailing list, because they send out really good discussion of different organizations, and they have workshops and all this kind of stuff. So we're a member of that, and so take advantage of that for sure. Also, you're going to see all the way through this lecture, this website, 5030grants.com. That is our own website. Jeff Brennan, the head of the foundation, he developed this website, and it has all the important stuff you need there. So this is a good website, and you'll be finding out all the things that are there very soon. So again, when you're looking at the nonprofits, what are different ways? We already talked about the host Rotary might know them, might have already worked with them in other grants. Looking at their website and taking that understanding that a website is only as good as the webmaster. So if it's sort of a kind of a inexpensive, kind of old-fashioned website, as long as it has the information on it, that means they didn't spend their big bucks on the website. They spent it maybe on the program. So don't judge a place by its website, but do get the information. Look at the board of directors. Do they have enough diversity in skills and maybe even in representing the communities to be able to really function, people who can handle the money, people who can govern, and so on. You can look at their finances. You can look at their projects. Who else supports them? Are they in league with what you want, with people you want to support? The 990 is an IRS form that nonprofits have to fill out each year. And it has interesting information on it too, like the salaries of the top staff people, so how the sort of the donor base is, and then they have on there what their best thing, what they want to tell the IRS that they've accomplished this year to be able to keep their 501c3 to be tax deductible. Excuse me. So that's an interesting thing to look at. They're out there for the public. If it's not on the website, you can Google it. And the rating organizations like Charity Navigator are interesting. They're not 100% what you should only go for, but it really is interesting to see them. They rate organizations that are mostly publicly supported, so not ones that are supported almost entirely by the government. And they bring in over $1 million over several years. So the small organizations aren't going to be on there, but the bigger ones will be rated. And then how are you going to evaluate the Rotary Club, the host Rotary Club, if you haven't worked with them before? Well, of course, if there's another club in 5030 or you're partnering with another club in 5030 that does have experience with them, that would be your number one. But you can also ask the host club, your contact there, who else they've worked with if they've done global grants. And then you can call those people anywhere in the world and talk to them. Did they communicate? Did they get their reports in on time? Did they seem to really do a good supervisory job? And then in Evanston, Illinois, where the Rotary Foundation headquarters are, there is a country chair or desk for every country that there are Rotaries. And you can call that person. That's the person who's going to be reviewing your grant when you turn it in. And so you can get to know that person, and that person will also know if that host Rotary Club hasn't been good at filing reports and so on. They'll know if there's a problem with them. So those are different ways that you can evaluate those partner champions. Now, how are you going to fund this? So you have 3 avenues for funding for international. So a direct grant means that your club decides that they're going to give some money to somebody else, whether it's here or international. Your club makes up the rules. An example might be giving $500 to the food bank, or it might be giving scholarships. It's a direct grant to some other nonprofit, and you have the freedom to do it when you want, how you want, and whatever accountability you want to ask for. There's no matching funds for that. It's just something clubs do, and I'm sure all of your clubs do some of that. The district grant is a district grant because it is managed by the district, but it can be national, local, or international. We'll talk about that in a minute. And the global grant is always international. There have to be 2 countries involved. And you can either partner with somebody else's district or global grant and learn how to do it, or you can start your own, Okay, so this is the only slide I have that's got all this stuff on it, but it really is important stuff. So the difference between a district grant, which again means the district is managing it. It does not mean it has to be in the district. It's a different use of the word district. And the Rotary part of it is less than $30,000. What I mean by that is, let's say the senior center wants to have a vehicle, a small van. Let's say it costs $50,000. Let's say they got a grant from King County for all but $30,000, like $20,000, and you want to do a $30,000 to finish it off. That's fine. So the total grant could be higher, but the Rotary part is less than $30,000. Global grants greater than $30,000. Okay. District grants are much easier. There's a simple form. It goes on to 3 pages. You send it in to Kathy Burnell, and she, in 1 week from today, will be doing her talk on district grants. So you'll have much more detail. If you're planning to do a district grant this year, you should go to her talk, because things have changed from all the talks you've heard before from both of us. And it's a simple form. It's local or global. I've already said that. It's only one a year. So your club has to decide, what is it going to be? This is a drop dead deadline. It's always good if you can. I always intend to. I don't always succeed to get it in earlier. So if she has something you need to do, something else signed, some other information, then you can get the whole thing in by the 15th. And there's a one-to-one match, and I'll give you the details on that on the next slide. And global, detailed, complicated form, but much bigger grants. They're always international. You can apply for a global grant anytime through the year. And there's a bigger match, which we're going to talk about right about now. So for any matching grant, these 2 things you have to do. So there's an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, an MOU with the district each year. That's between your club and the district. And it basically says, if you screw up on your grant, your club is responsible. It's got a lot more print than that, but that's basically what you're signing. So the president each year signs that. So if you're planning to write any kind of matching grant, you want any kind of money from the district this year, what you do on July 2nd, because your new president is much too busy on July 1st, on July 2nd, you can go to 5030grants.com, download that MOU, put it under the nose of the president and say, sign here, and it tells you where to send it in. That's your job. Now, 2 club members have to do a training each year. And those trainings are this one. So if you're here, you get credit. And then the Kathy's district training. So those 2 trainings, it's good if one club member goes to one goes to another, and it's even better if lots of club members go to both, of course. But that has to be done before you're going to get any matching grant or any money from the district. In addition, for district grants, and Kathy will talk about this more, 55% of the club membership in your club have to have donated to the Rotary Foundation, not your club foundation, the Rotary Foundation, on an average over 2 years. And over those same 2 years, the average donation has to be $100 per member. So if not, you'll have less opportunity to match. That does not apply to the global grants, only the district grants. Okay, so what is new? Well, first of all, what is this matching? So the district grants match 1-to-1. So if your club puts in $1,000, either for your own grant or you're partnering with another club, then the district DDF is district designated funds. These are funds the district has. They'll match it $1,000, and so it will leverage to become $2,000. If it is a global grant, the district still matches it 1-to-1. Then the Rotary Foundation matches it 80%. Always used to be 100%. But because the Rotary Foundation has less money and many, many, many more global grants, especially this year, they're running out of money in this particular fund that funds the global grants. They have a ton of money, but for this particular fund. And so they've cut down the match to 80%. So what does that mean? For $1,000 the club puts into a global grant, whether it's yours or whether it's a partner, We match it, the DDF, the district designated fund, matches it with 1,000. And then TRF will match it with 800, 80% of 1,000. And so it'll turn out to be 2,800. It's confusing, but that's as clear as I can possibly make it. Now, there are limits. So the limit for a district grant is 10,000 for any particular grant. And that's if you have two partners and your lead club is qualified in terms of having done the training and the MOU. For global grants, the maximum district designated fund match is 22,000, which then will be matched by the Rotary Foundation, 80% of that, right? And then that'll ought to add up. Okay, so these are new. This is not new, but this is new. And Kathy, again, will talk about it. It's more complicated than that, but that's the very maximum. Okay, so I'm going to give you a real live example. So there's a woman in District 5030. She belongs to, of course, one of our clubs. And she is Kenyan. She has some property outside of Nairobi in kind of a very poor area where there are homeless women and children. And she has bought the property there, and she has a very modest building there. And she has women coming in and learning skills like sewing skills to be able to try and earn a little, generate their own income, and hopefully get out of homelessness and feed their kids. There's also a daycare academy that she supports, and there's also a daycare center so the women can work and they can also learn skills. She wanted these women trained in leadership so that they could lead groups of women who can do income generating tasks, and women empowerment so they knew that they could do it because they're on the streets and nobody's paying any attention to them. You feel pretty worthless. And also some financial literacy so that they could do table banking and those kinds of things. So her club, with two other partners, put together a women's empowerment district grant, and it was $8,500 by the time it got matched up with the district. And then with this, she hired a group from another nonprofit who have been doing these kinds of trainings with their people. And they came down into Nairobi and came here and ran a 3-day conference, which apparently was an incredibly joyous event, and the women felt enabled, and they had trained the trainers, and now those women are going out to getting groups of women, and she hopes to end up with 500 women in groups that can be trained and be generating income in a small way. So what's good about this is that the NGO is known. There's obviously need and passion in this area. There are some assets. And then she engaged the local Rotary group to come in and work with the PPE and the COVID restrictions, and made sure that they learned all the COVID restrictions and that they practiced them during that 3-day conference. So she had a good relationship with that Rotary group. So now, if she wants to do, and if that club wants to support, a global grant, you've already got your needs assessment pretty much handled. There's more formality and interviews and so on with what they want, but she's done a lot of that. So they want water. They don't have any water on that property, and the kids need water and the adults need water, obviously. So what are the needs assessment? Well, she owns the land, so you don't have to do any property rights things. You don't have to pay for a spring or something like that, but you do have to pay for a well. It doesn't have a well. So either she's going to have to get a district grant to fund the water study, or maybe raise money for it directly, or else maybe that's going to have to be done, I think, before she can get her global grant. The needs are there. The Rotary Club is engaged. The nonprofit is defined. Everybody's working together, so you've got all your champions Every single global grant is going to have teaching. So there'll be hygiene training with the school. There'll be an assessment. Do they also need sanitation facilities or not? I don't know. But this is just an example of how you can build up. You can have a direct grant, district grant, and then build up to your global grant once you have your champions and you know you can work well with them. So in terms of traction and sustainability, there will be a lot of questions. So the first ones we already talked about. How did the beneficiaries come to know about the problem? How did they prioritize it? What are they going to put in? But you will also need, in this case, a well study that shows that it's going to produce water enough for this increased use over 10 years, at least. There'll need to be a water committee that's trained. So there'll be funds in there to train the water committee. There'll be funds to train, do the hygiene training, teach the kids, teach the parents, the women. And then how is it going to be maintained? If it's a solar thing, may not need much maintenance, but there is going to be maintenance and repair. And so how are those fees going to happen? All these things have to be in your global grant in order to get it accepted, because that's what really makes it have traction and be sustainable. Now, I've been talking about this website. It's a must go. So it has your forms for your district grants. It has your forms for your progress reports and your final reports for your district grants. It has all the rules for the global grants. So if you click on there, you will get the global grant manual. You will get the community assessment manual and the thing you write the results on. You will also get the date matching Rotary website. So just like a dating match service, Rotary has a match service also. People all around the world can put up there what they want in terms of they're writing a global grant. And then you could decide, oh, that looks really interesting. And that's the country I want to go to. And that's maybe I'm going to call those people up and see if this is where I want to do my global grant. So it's like a dating service for global grants. And then all those kinds of things are here. Plus the recording of this and Kathy's talks will be on there. The last year's ones are there today, but they will be updated. So lots of good stuff. And then any other grants the district is putting out are here too. So this is the go-to place to start with. And then you're ready to apply for a global grant. So you're going to go to rotary.org and then My Rotary. You're going to sign in. If you don't have an account, you're going to register with the obvious way of name and email and password. And then you'll see this menu. You will hover, but not click on Rotary Foundation. And then that will give you a menu over here. You will hover, but not click on Apply for Grants. And one of your choices in the next menu is Global Grants, and you can click there. Okay, and that gives you links to an entire page worth of hot links of information you may or may not need. And then at the very bottom, there's a link to for the application. So start there. Then you'll get your application up and you'll put in your name. You'll put in the name of the host club and whoever's going to be the lead there. You'll get a grant number, and then you can start going down and answering all those questions. At the on the 20th, I'm giving another talk, which will be a workshop for global grants, which means that I take every question on that application and go over it in detail. It's for people who want to write a global grant or who are thinking about writing it this year. And I can make your life much easier if I can tell you basically what the answers are. So if you're not going to write a global grant this year, then I would not come to my workshop. It would be really boring. Okay, so now these are the things that are in 50/30 grants and the must reads. Definitely the guide to global grants, which gives you all the rules. For instance, one that everybody gets caught up on if they're doing a school, they want to build the school. No buildings. The biggest building I think that you can build, there may be some slight exception, is a latrine. Other than that, no buildings. So you get somebody else to build the building and then you can fill it full of stuff. but whether it's computers or science equipment or anything else, but no buildings. All right. I talked about your community assessment tools. Monitoring and evaluation is the metrics, the measures you're going to use for your focus area. And they'll tell you exactly what they want you to use. You must use at least one of them, and then you can have your own also. And then this MOU comes up again. This is your memorandum of understanding, but it's not the same one as the one that you did with the district. This one is with your host club and the nonprofit and anybody else who's going to provide a service. And it basically says Rotary's in charge and you're going to provide the service for Rotary. And the host Rotary is in there too. So the host Rotary says, yes, I'm pairing up. And the other people are going to say that. And if you have a government organization, for instance, you're putting a science lab in a school, but the government says that they're going to provide the teachers. Well, then the government needs to write a letter saying that they promised to send the teachers, or an MOU saying it. So one way or another, some governments won't write MOUs, but they'll write a letter on their letterhead to Rotary International. So you have to have this documentation. And then, as I said before, almost every single Rotary grant needs education. They really want to have you educate the technical parts of what you've implemented and the community parts of what you've implemented, whatever it is. There's going to be a training plan. Surprise, there's a form for that. And so you'll be able to see that on the Rotary website. Now, when you have click on that last part where it says you're going to do a grant, you get this screen. And this is how it goes. So when you are writing on the online application for your Rotary grant, your global grant, this is only global grants, you're in draft position. And then after that, when you think you're ready to go, you do not go to authorization, which is where you put your signature on it. You go to me. So you need to pass, if you're going to want any district designated funds, which is that matching fund pool, then the Global Grant Committee has to review it. So we can earmark how much DDF, and because we can give you some advice, we are all global grant writers because we're sadists, and we can give you advice about things that may be missing, things that you have to watch out for, things that you might want to change, things that just aren't going to work. So we can give you that advice. So you can send drafts to us at any time when you have a question, but certainly when you have most of your funding lined up, committed, you don't have to have the checks, you just have to have the clubs, your partner clubs committed, and you have your budget set, and you have the grant filled in, then send it to me. I'll send it around to the committee. We'll give you our best advice. And then after that, we'll say, okay, it's time to authorize it. And then you can sign it. Once you've signed it, it is locked. That makes sense because when you sign a document, you don't want somebody writing above it something else that you don't know about. So yes, of course, it's locked. You authorize it. The governors authorize it. Jeff authorizes it from the foundation, and those same people in the host club have to authorize it. A lot of times you have to keep pinging them to authorize it. And then once everything is authorized, then it gets submitted. That's the holy grail. Once you push that submit button, and I mean, once they tell you that they've approved it enough to be that you push the submit button, excuse me, then you breathe, you get your life back, you're happy for about 2 weeks. Then you get the feedback from TRF, and now it's taking longer. You might get a little bit longer respite, and they will give you feedback, which basically is, we'd like to know this, we need this information. Did you do this? Will you do this? And then you have to send all that stuff back in, and then it'll get approved. There can be 2 or 3 rounds right in this section. So don't feel personal about it. Don't feel that you're the only one in the world that got criticized, because I would say 99% there's feedback. Then you're approved and you can collect the money. You put it in a specialized bank account, and then you get to do the work, which is the most rewarding part, right? And then each year you write a progress note, or if it's over with, you write a final note. You need to be on time each year, or else we get black marks from Rotary Heaven, which we don't like. So you'll be hearing pings from me if you're not getting that thing in, as some of you already know. Okay, so more information. This is the talk I'm giving right now. You're here, so you get credit for it. And then one other club member or you has to go to this to meet that minimal qualification for training. And this is Kathy's talk talking about the district grants. And then I also mentioned that this global grant workshop is available for you on the 20th. In addition, there are some other trainings. I already mentioned the environmental focus training is half an hour, I guess 5 to 6, 6:30, it's at 6:30. On May 12th, Larry Loeb is going to be doing that talk that has an economic focus, that has some environmental focus, and other kinds of resources that you can use. And the May 5th, which was last night, Jeff gave a really good talk on the foundation. So if you want to know what's happening to the money you give to the foundation, you want to know why they're cutting back on us in terms of the matching, you want to know all the other things it funds, you can hear that recording. So I've given you a huge amount of information. It sounds very complicated. It is complicated, but I love, this is my photograph of the year. I figure if this guy and all his partners can dig that ship out of the Suez Canal, you can do a global grant. We're here to help. This is what the committee is. And I'm ready for any questions.
If there's any questions, anyone, you can unmute yourselves or you can use the chat window. And I do see a chat from Alan, but I believe that case study walkthrough answered that. But Alan, if you have any follow-ups, feel free to unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. That was super interesting. Can you give us a timeline, a typical timeline for that flow through that you just showed?
For a global grant?
From the left to the right, you know, someone has an idea, maybe the club is willing to fund it, etc.
So it's completely variable. So the big things that take a lot of time are, first of all, getting enough partners to be able to fund you. So you have to go to the other clubs, or they can be clubs outside the district also. And you need to see, and then a lot of the clubs, there are some small clubs that might say, sure, I'll get my committee together and talk about it. More commonly, committees have a certain time they meet. Some of the clubs, and again, Larry has a list of these, have special applications for them. So just lining up, depending on how much money you want, lining up the funding is very time consuming. Now that, of course, can go in parallel with you writing up the grant. And then a lot depends on the communication you have with the host club and the nonprofit, because a lot of the information on the grant comes from them. So if they take a week to answer every question, you're in trouble. If they're really responsive, you can go much faster. They can also be helping write the grant, the other host club. So I'd say that's probably the biggest backlog. Other people could chime in, but to me, that's what really takes a long time. It takes time to write the grant, of course, but it's longer to do the funding, and you do them at the same time.
Hey, Kathy, there is a limit that there is a matching limit per club, right?
Yes. So the matching,
it's like $12,000 or something.
Okay, so for the global grants, the matching limit, not per club, but the matching limit per project is 22,000 for us to match.
Oh,
For the district, for us to match. Okay, so the whole grant is much bigger, right? So let's, so if a club, if you get together $22,000, then we'll match it at $22,000. That's $44,000.
Oh,
And then the Rotary Foundation will match 80% of $22,000.
Oh, so that's just for my club. If I can put in put together like 20,000, it will be matched by the district 20,000. Oh, I thought there was a limit of like 12,000 per club.
Okay, so that is for the district grant. That
Oh.
used to be 12,000 and now it's 10,000.
Oh, I see. So on a global grant, you're capped up to 20. I
22.
mean, up to 22 per project.
Now you can raise more than that. A lot of clubs have raised 30. We have another club that raised 41 from district clubs. But
Yeah,
the maximum that we can match is 22 because we keep a maximum because we don't want, like two really big grants to come in and scarf up all the DDF and then nobody else gets to make any global grants.
because I have raised about $30,000 on a project that I'm working on. So I was thinking of getting money from other partnering clubs so I can get the balance of the money. But if my club can raise more money so we can get 22,000, then I will have to.
Oh, okay. So yes, you're right. Your club, I didn't have that in there. You're right. Your club can raise, we will match up to 15,000 per club.
15,000?
15.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no.
On a global grant basis.
Right. We've had it back at 12. I don't think we've made that decision this year. I think we'll probably go to 15.
Okay, but it was like 12 last year, right?
It was 12 last year. You're reminding me of this.
No, I've been working on this project for a long time, but it's not easy to put together. So I remember that like if we are the host, if we are the international club, there is a limit to what we can get from the district in terms of the matching. So to get to the 22,000, we need the help of other clubs.
yes,
To be able to get it. So you haven't decided whether that's 12 or 15, but likely it might go back to 15.
Mark, our committee is going to have to decide that. So I'm just going to put that question on hold. It'll be between 12 and 15.
Okay.
We haven't decided.
Good to know. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you. Thank you for reminding me of that.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
Hello?
Kathleen.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
I do have a project in mind. It's in Ghana. And I was wondering if there's any way for the people there to access the training that we're receiving right now, because they may not be as experienced with global grants. And even though the district part of it's going to be different, the global grant part will be the same. Can they see our recordings or?
Absolutely. So the recordings are going to be up for the public, and you can, I assume you can send them a link. I don't know why not.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's going to be in English, but Ghana, yeah, but Ghana.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah. Mhm.
And
I have
does
a
it
question.
matter?
This is,
Oh, I'm sorry.
sorry.
Ruth Ann? You want to ask?
Yes. I know in some cases, if you get money from clubs in other districts, sometimes you can get DDF from them as well. And that doesn't affect DDF from our district, does it? Or
No, so we match our 50-30. That's a good question. We match our 50-30 clubs. And some other districts may or may not match their clubs. But if there's $20,000 of DDF from some other district, and there's $20,000 of DD of clubs chiming in our district, yeah, we'll match, they'll match, and then TRF will match both at 80%. So it is a good way to be able to get up to higher numbers to make friends with people in other districts. Mm-hmm.
Thank
Yes,
you.
they can definitely partner with you. And likewise, if you partner with somebody in another district, and let's say you want to put 5,000 into that particular one, we will match that 5,000 even though it's going to the other district.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Kathleen.
Yeah.
Hi. Kathleen, this is a boilerplate question. I was filling out this club qualification MOU, with the district. And our current club president will also be our president next year. So I just crossed off the 2021 and wrote 2020, 2022. And I'm going to be the president 22, 23. So I crossed that off and wrote that in. You think that's going to be okay with everybody?
Does the president know about, it's the same, does the same president know you've done that?
Well, yeah,
I have no idea.
I happen to sleep with this president. She's my
Well, I have a close relationship with the treasurer of the foundation, likewise. So I know that really helps. So you're going to send it into San Michael Pham, and if he doesn't like,
I will.
Just do a cover letter with
Well,
it.
I'm not sure what we can do about it, because that's just the reality. She's president for 2 years. So now, okay, that was my question. I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't some.
It's San Michael's.
I'm getting a little punchy on this whole process.
And you have another year to go. Yay.
Oh. So anyway, so yeah, that was it. Thank you.
Okay.
So a question from Mike Madden in the chat. The question is a community assessment mandatory for every global grant?
Yes.
I was helping another club, a host club. Yes, they were the host club, working through the global grant application, and the wording on the site was ambiguous. It didn't say that in so many words. I told him to do it, but so I'm glad to hear that I'm right.
You're right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably in the the manual, but yes, they won't take it without a community assessment, and you send it in as an attachment. One of the documents you're going to attach, probably your spreadsheet for your budget. You're going to attach maybe pictures. You're going to attach anything you want to attach, but you're going to attach your community assessment.
This is Randy from South Center Tukwila Club. We're doing a project in the Philippines with a club over there where we're bringing wideband internet connectivity to a school that's way out in farming land, and they have no access. And we're bringing it through Starlight. It's a Starlink. It's a initial test project. We've been working with the club there in Ilo City, and we've got everything done. And we're putting computers and handheld tablets. The question I've got is, we have not even talked about an NGO. So are we exempt then from getting matches? Because we'll have to go pay an NGO to do it.
If the Rotary Club there is doing it, you don't need
They're
an
excited about it. They are already doing it. We already started.
Yeah, no, you don't have to have an NGO. That's not a requirement. It's just.
Oh, it isn't. Okay, it sounded like it was. That's one of the 4.
Yeah, I can see why it sounded like it. Almost always there is an NGO, but if the Rotary Club there is doing it directly, that's
yeah.
better. That's fine. Mhm.
Yeah, it's a great project.
No,
Okay.
the only requirement is the 2 Rotary Clubs in different countries.
You solved my problem.
That's nice.
I have another chat question from Mary Starkbaum. For a global grant, I think is a confirmation, for a global grant, DDF up to 12K per club, but up to 20K per project if several clubs are involved.
So 22K for the project, and as I just said, the committee hasn't decided whether it's going to be 12 per project for per club or maybe a little bit more. We have to just look at how much DDF we have for this year and how we should spread it out. But then we also want to, if we can be a little more generous, we want to, because of that 80% cut. So we have to discuss that as a committee. So I'll have somewhere between 12 and 15. I don't want to make that decision myself right here on the recording.
Kathleen, I just want to clarify. It's not 15 and 22. 15
No.
is part of the 22.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. There's a limit per club, so somebody can't just come in, put in 22,000 of their own money to your foundation and get their own grant and go do it. You need to have partners if you're going to go above 15 per club. Or 20 or 12 to 15. Any other questions? So, Alan, maybe I've already answered this, but the case study with a timeline of a typical service project that won a grant, there really isn't typical. I don't know if we could really do that. I think I told you where the big hangups end up being.
Hey, Kathy, is a copy of your presentation today going to be available somewhere in the website or?
Yes, Henry might know, it's being recorded, and Henry might know when it's going to be out. Do you know, Henry?
I'm not sure. The recording should be out relatively soon on the district YouTube channel. So.
And then Jeff will put it on that 50/30 grants one also.
The times of day for the next two workshops that you talked about on May 12th and 20th, do you know the times of the day?
No, but it's on that festival.
Okay.
So what I do is I go to my email and I go to I just put in Karma or Howard Cohen, and I think he's the one who put it out last or something like that. And then it's good if you register, and then it'll be on your calendar. Well, I must have answered everybody's questions.
Yeah, we'll have a lot more as we get started.
Okay, and as you're writing, if you join that workshop on the 20th, if you're really writing a grant, that's going to be for you.
Thank you.
That'll be smaller, and it'll, it'll be interactive. You can ask questions as we go through, and I can tell you our experience on what they're really asking in these questions. And as you look at the grant, I think the thing that's kind of a challenge is read all the questions first. They tell you on a test to do that, right? Read all the questions first, because some of the questions you just have to reword answers again and again. So you have to sort of space out which answers you're going to put where.
Thank you very much for this.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Okay, you're more than welcome. This was fun.